Hi guys, Dominic here, and I'm going to go through a dynamic warm-up for the hips, mainly the hip area, that we can do with virtually no equipment at all. So again, I'm a big fan of the Ido Portal quote that the more expensive the tools, the cheaper the mover. So if we can get to the point where we can kind of warm up with virtually no equipment, that's a pretty good place to be. So we're going to start in a standing position and this leg swings up and down, and all the purpose of all of these movement-based exercises is to increase the range of motion in the hips and quads and into maybe the ankles then as well. So we're now facing the wall. We're imagining that we're taking our leg over a fence, both forwards and backwards, which I'm doing here now, and then the forwards will look like that. Again, these don't have to be done in any particular order. You can decide to kind of, pick 2 or 3 out of this, maybe combine them with the dynamic shoulder warm-up video I've done as well. And then if you wanted to throw in a little bit of foam rolling along the way on any particular tight areas, then go ahead and do that. Now I'm just doing leg swings across the body on that one. Dropping on down into squat, and again, I wouldn't overly worry about, where exactly am I working in all of these areas. Just try them all, find the ones that you're a little bit tight in, maybe work on them a little bit more, and then start to use your body like a bit of self-discovery. All I'm doing is just giving you ideas, find the areas you want to work on. I'm not lying my back up against the wall there. You can see I'm just touching my bum against it. I could do all of those in a standing position as well. So that's a wide stance squat I was in that position, or a horse stance. Now I'm into frog stretch, so I'm rocking forwards and back. My toes are pointing outwards. My feet are as wide as my knees. I'm going to go at a slightly different angle so you can see what's going on here. So knees out very, very wide, and then just rocking forwards and back. When I'm in that position, I can work on contractions by pulling the knees together or getting into the following position. So I've got one leg pointed out, and I'm going to again rock forwards and back in that position. Again, trying to work into different areas that I find tight. You might feel this one in your adductors and the inside of your thighs, which for a lot of people are quite tight, and into the hamstring sort of area. Do the same thing, about 5-10 reps in each position. Again, it's more dynamic. If you find areas that are quite tight, then yes, obviously stay in them a little bit more. I'm just doing little lifts in each of the areas now as well. So I'm lifting right leg, left leg, and don't be afraid to rotate into that and press your hip down towards the floor as well. They're all just different ways in which you can work again on the hips. Kind of 90-90 stretch here. So I've got the front shin straight across the body, back shin in behind me, and then I'm going to just rotate from side to side, trying not to use my hands to lift up and down. As you can see there, I've made a bit of hand contact, so I'm trying not to do that, and just shift over and back and just sweeping my knees underneath me, my feet underneath me I should say. Sorry, I was just thinking about the knees. Just make sure you use a padded mat. That can be very hard on the knees otherwise. Try some dog down positions as well. You can't really go wrong with those. Obviously, if the ankles are tight and you can't get the heels down, pump your heels up and down. If that still isn't solving it, then go one foot in behind the other foot like I'm doing here. If that still is not solving it, then you need to mash your calves with a stick, which I have covered in another video. Try then going from a bent knee position, which will help to flatten out the back an awful lot more, to straight leg position. Drop the heels back down again, go back to bent knee, try and keep the back flat as you straighten the legs out, which you can see I'm trying to do there. From there, we're going into like a standard pigeon stretch, which is one of my kind of 4 most important mobility tests you should be able to pass. I should be able to get my shin straight across the body, and then in that position you'll see that I'm moving around a little bit. I'm not so worried about dropping down. I'm trying to shift my weight around, feel the corners of the stretch I need to work on, and just jamming into those corners a little bit as much as I need to. Again, if I needed a bit of work on the hips, I'd probably put a ball in there. On the hamstrings, again, I'm keeping it dynamic, just rocking forwards and back, one foot tucked in, one foot in against my groin. I'm trying to keep the knee that is tucked in against my groin of that leg on the ground as much as I can. Reaching for my toes is not important. Now I'm going to work into a straddle. And again, reaching my toes is not important. You go as far forwards as your body will allow. Cross over the body, so just opposite foot, opposite hand, standard kind of straddle stretch, and then side to side kind of leaning, working in on the QL and that lower back a little bit then as well, pulling my chest towards the floor. Again, all different areas. Another good idea here would be to tuck one foot in underneath me, just do a standard kind of binding type stretch from yoga, and then pull that knee into my chest and across the body, and that'll hit the glutes then as well. So again, it's all just different areas. You might find certain ones are tighter for you. Work on those a little bit more. Bring that knee across the body, And as I said, you could pick one or two, get back up to standing, do some shoulder work, some foam rolling. You could do this for a full hour, no problem, just kind of going forwards and back on different stretches. Another good thing to do to work on hip mobility is crossing the legs and then coming to a standing position. So I just need to rock forwards and back. This is an excellent mobility test for the hips. I'm going to cross the opposite way around now, sit back down, and that's a nice way to kind of check what your hip mobility is like. You should be able to do this without touching your hands or your knees off the ground. And then I'm going to sit back down again. So again, some ideas there. Give them a go. If you want to finish, you might open up the hips like that. Maybe if your hips are feeling okay, get into half lotus, circle the hips around like this, stick it up into the corner of the hip, bow forwards a little bit, work again on the hips, and that's a good one to work on the ankles then again. Just depends on your hip mobility. So if you're really stuck on your hip mobility, you just pull it in towards your chest, start rocking the hip back into its socket, and then bring the foot up only as much as you can, and then bow forwards. But again, it's a nice way of kind of checking where the hip and ankle mobility is at. Lots of ideas there. Give it a go. Hope you found this helpful, and subscribe if you're finding it helpful. All the best.